Good morning, everybody. Hopefully we have some sound this morning. It looks like that we do. I just figured out that I can copy the YouTube URL right from my screen and then post it to Facebook. So that's awesome. Well, we're going on. We're gonna read. So let me post this to Facebook real quick. And we'll roll. We will roll. All right, cool. Sorry about that. Took an extra little bit of time of me being distracted. But good morning, everyone. Glad to see that you are here. Let's see who we got joining us in the old chat room. Keegan, good morning. Kendall and Kurt, because he is with you. Good morning. Glad to see you. Rachel and Ethan are hanging out with us. That's wonderful. Glad that you guys are here. Good morning. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. Whoa, I didn't want to do that one. I want to do this one. There we go. Looking a bit better there. So we're going to be getting into 2 Chronicles. We'll give a couple minutes for anybody else to come in that's going to come in. If you're here, smash that like button. You just got to click it. You don't got to smash it. I want you guys smashing up your computers. So, the Coded Gamer. Is that Ian? I'm not sure who the Coded Gamer is. Who's the Coded Gamer? Anyway, welcome, the Coded Gamer. Glad you are here. Yeah, I think it's Ian. I'm not sure. I thought it was Ian. But... oh my goodness, I put a bump on my head. Yes, Ian. Welcome, Ian. Glad to see you, brother. Glad that you are here joining us for some Bible reading. It's going to be some exciting, adventures today in 2 Chronicles. A lot of Hebrew names that are going to be hard for me to say. We are going to go ahead and try to get as far as we can today. And we might do this tomorrow. We'll see. I think I want to try streaming. Yeah, from Tennessee. I think I want to try streaming to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, but I might have to do it a little bit different with the way that I set up the stream. It might not be like a scheduled stream. It might just go live. So you have to go to my channel and then it should pop up. I'm not sure though, because I got to use something called Restream, and I'm still figuring out how to do that. But that way, people who are on Facebook can check this out, and people who are on YouTube can check it out. And so maybe we'll get some more people that way. I got it out in the middle of school, so I'm doing 2 things at once. Well, that's good, Ian. That's good. 2 things at once. You're going to hear some Bible in one ear and some school in the other ear. And hopefully it'll be profitable for you. But let's open with a word of prayer, and then we'll get rolling. So Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. I thank you that Ian can join us from Tennessee, and everyone else who's in the chat and who's going to hear your word this morning. I pray that you would just speak to us through your word, that you continue to grow us through the scriptures, and that we would just really know more about you and understand you more. God, we pray that lots and lots of people would come, not so that we have a big number, but so that a lot of people hear your word and get excited about your word. And we want lots of people to be part of this. So we thank you, and we praise you, and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Let's see. Well, I don't know. Do you want to try this restream thing? I don't know if it'll work. Let's try it at the end. At the end of this, we'll do a practice where I kill this stream and I try to start a Facebook and YouTube stream at the same time, and we'll see what happens on your end. All right? We'll see what happens on your end, and then you guys can help me through that. That would be great. All right. Let's read. Asa's religious reforms. The Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Oded, and he went out to meet Asa, and he said to him, "Hear me, Asa, And all Judah and Benjamin, the Lord is with you while you are with him. And if you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. For a long time Israel was without a true God, and without a teaching priest, and without law. But when in their distress they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was found by them. In those times there was no peace to him who went out, or to him who came in. For great disturbances afflicted all the inhabitants of the lands. They were broken in pieces. Nation was crushed by nation, and city by city, for God troubled them with every sort of distress. But you, take courage. Do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. As soon as Asa heard these words, the prophecy of Azariah the son of Obed, he took courage and put away the detestable idols from all the land of Judah and Benjamin, and from the cities that he had taken in the hill country of Ephraim. And he repaired all the altars of the Lord that was in front of the vestibule of the house of the Lord, and he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, and those from Ephraim and Manasseh and Simeon, who were residing with them, for the great numbers had deserted to him from Israel when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. They were gathered at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the reign of Asa. They sacrificed to the Lord on that day. From the spoil that they had brought 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul. But that whoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman. They swore an oath to the Lord with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with horns. And all Judah rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart, and had sought him with their whole desire. And he was found by them, and the Lord gave them rest all around. Even Maacah, his mother, King Asa removed from being queen mother, because she had made a detestable image for Asherah. Asa cut down her image, crushed it, and burned it in the brook Kidron. But the high places were not taken out of Israel. Nevertheless, the heart of Asa was wholly true all his days, and he brought into the house of God the sacred gifts of his father, and his own sacred gifts, silver and gold and vessels, and there was no more war until the 35th year of the reign of Asa. In the 36th year in the reign of Asa, Baash, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might permit no one to go out or come in to Asa, king of Judah. Then Asa took silver and gold from the treasures of the house of the Lord and the king's house, and sent them to Ben-Hadad, king Syria, who lived in Damascus, saying, There is a covenant between me and you, as there was between my father and your father. Behold, I am sending to you silver and gold. Go, break your covenant with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may withdraw from me. And Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa, and he sent the commanders of his armies against the cities of Israel, and they conquered Ijon, Dan, Abel-Maim, and the store cities of Naphtali. And when Baasha heard of it, he stopped building Ramah and let the work cease. Then King Asa took all Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and its timber, which Baasha had been building, and with them he built Geba and Mizpah. At that time, Hanani the seer came to Asa king of Judah and said to him, Because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped you. Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro through the whole earth, to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless toward him. This is a great verse, just like hidden right here in the middle of 2 Chronicles. You have done foolishly in this. From now on, you will have wars. Then Asa was angry with the seer, and he put him in the stocks in prison, for he was in a rage with him because of this. And Asa inflicted cruelties upon some of the people at the same time. Oh man, it's Asa. Come on, brother. The acts of Asa, from the first to the last, are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa was diseased in his feet, and his disease became severe. Yet even in his disease he did not seek the Lord, but sought help from physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers, dying in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in the tomb that he had cut for himself in the city of David. They laid him on a bier that had been filled with various kinds of spices prepared by the perfumer's art, and they made very great fire in his honor. Just a quick note about this verse. He did not seek, yet even in his disease he did not seek the Lord, but sought help from physicians. It's not wrong to seek help from physicians. But if you're purposely avoiding God and you're saying, no, God can't heal me, only science can heal me, that's a problem, right? So we believe that God can heal either miraculously or through physicians. And a lot of times God gives us the wisdom to go see physicians. But in this case, you can see that Asa was purposefully avoiding God. He was avoiding praying to God. He was avoiding going to God. He was avoiding seeking God for counsel. And that's kind of the point that he's making here. It's like he didn't seek God, but he did seek help from the physicians. And back then, the physicians might have been a little bit more superstitious, like casting spells or doing those kinds of things to try to heal people, not just like medical science with medicines and stuff. So that's kind of that thing there. It's not that the Bible's saying that you shouldn't go see the doctor. Because some people will take that verse and try to say, see, you shouldn't see the doctor. You should just pray your ailments away. And it's like, well, I don't think so. All right. Jehoshaphat, his son, reigned in his place and strengthened himself against Israel. He placed forces in all the fortified cities of Judah and set garrisons in the land of Judah and in the cities of Ephraim that Asa his father had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he walked in the earlier ways of his father David. He did not seek the Baals, but sought the God of his father and walked in his commandments, and not according to the practices of Israel. Therefore the Lord established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought tribute to Jehoshaphat, and he had great riches and honor. His heart was courageous in the ways of the Lord, and furthermore, he took the high places and the Asherim of Judah, out of Judah. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials, Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nathaniel, and Micah, to teach in the cities of Judah. And with them the Levites, Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Ashiel, Shemiramoth, Jehonatha, Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tabadonijah. Too bad on Ijah, I guess. With these Levites, the priests, Elishama, I guess Elisha is like a biblical name, but you got to put them on the end. Elishama and Jehoram. And they taught in Judah, having the book of the law of the Lord with them. And they went about through all the cities of Judah and taught among the people. And the fear of the Lord fell upon all the kingdoms of the lands that were around Judah. And they made no war against Jehoshaphat. And some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat presents and silver for tribute. And the Arabians also brought him 7,700 rams and 7,700 goats. And Jehoshaphat grew steadily greater. He built in Judah fortresses and store cities. And he had large supplies in the cities of Judah. And he had soldiers, mighty men of valor in Jerusalem. This was the muster of them by fathers' houses. Of Judah, the commanders of thousands. Adnan, the commander, with 300,000 mighty men of valor. And next to him, Jehohanan, the commander, with 280,000. And next to him, Amasiah, the son of Zitkurai, a volunteer for the service of the Lord, with 200,000 mighty men of valor. Of Benjamin, Elida, a mighty man of valor, with 200,000 men armed with bow and shield. And next to him, Jehozabad, with 180,000 armed for war. These were in the service of the king, besides those whom the king had placed in the fortified cities throughout all Judah. Man, these are like huge armies. 280,000 dudes, 200,000, 180,000. These are gigantic armies. Not quite as big as the one we read about back there with 1 million. Had 1 million men, remember? And 300 chariots. I don't know why I think that's funny, but I do. All right, now Jehoshaphat had great riches and honor. And he made a marriage alliance with Ahab. After some years he went down to Ahab in Samaria, and Ahab killed an abundance of sheep and oxen for him and for the people who were with him, and induced him to go up against Ramoth-Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, "Will you go with me to Ramoth-Gilead?" He answered him, "I am as you are, my people as your people. We will be with you in the war." And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, "Inquire first for the word of the Lord." Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said to them, "Shall we go to battle against Ramoth-Gilead, or shall I refrain?" And they said, "Go up, for God will give it into your hand. God will give into the hand of the king." But Jehoshaphat said, "Is there not another prophet of the Lord, of whom we may inquire?" And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "There is yet one man by whom we may inquire of the Lord, Micah, the son of Imlah. But I hate him, for he never prophesies good concerning me, but always evil." Jehoshaphat said, "Let not the king say so." Then the king of Israel summoned an officer and said, "Bring quickly Micah and the son of Imlah." Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, were sitting on their thrones, arrayed in robes, and they were sitting in the threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, made for himself horns of iron and said, "Thus says the Lord, with these you shall push the Syrians until they are destroyed." And all the prophets prophesied and said, "Go up to Ramoth-Gilead and triumph. The Lord will give it into the hand of the king." And the messenger who went to summon Micah said to him, "Behold, the words of the prophets with one accord are favorable to the king. Let your word be like the word of one of them, and speak favorably." But Micah said, "As the Lord lives, what my God says that I will speak." And when he had come to the king said to him, "Micah, shall we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall I refrain?" And he answered, "Go up and triumph. They will be given into your hand." But the king said to him, "How many times shall I make you swear that you speak to me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" And he said, "I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains as sheep that have no shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let each one return to his home in peace." And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil?" And Micah said, "Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who will entice Ahab, the king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead?" And one saying one thing, and another said another. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, "I will entice him." And the Lord said to him, "By what means?" And he said, "I will go out, and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets." And he said, "You are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. Now, therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets. The Lord has declared disaster concerning you." Then Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, came near and struck Micah on the cheek and said, "Which way did the Spirit of the Lord go from me to speak to you?" Micah said, "Behold, you shall see on that day when you go into the inner chamber to hide yourself." And the king of Israel said, "Seize Micah and take him back to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, Thus says the king, put this fellow in prison and feed him with meager rations of bread and water until I return in peace." And Micah said, "If you return in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me." And he said, "Hear, all ye peoples." So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth-Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "I will disguise myself and go into battle, but you wear your robes." And the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. Now the king of Syria had commanded the captains of his chariots, "Fight with neither small nor great, but only with the king of Israel." And as soon as the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, "It's the king of Israel." So they turned to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him. God drew them away from him. For as soon as the captains of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him. But a certain man drew his bow at random and struck the king of Israel between the scale armor and the breastplate. Therefore he said to the driver of his chariot, "Turn around and carry me out of battle, for I am wounded." And the battle continued that day, and the king of Israel was propped up in his chariot facing the Syrians until evening. Then at sunset, he died. This we talked about this when we read through it in 1 Kings. This is a very strange passage. About the divine council, God's in heaven. He's talking to all these like spirit beings, angels. And he's like, hey, who's got a good plan on how to get Jehoshaphat out of here? Or not Jehoshaphat, the other guy. Who's the other guy? Ahab. And one spirit's like, I got a plan. I'll go to his prophets and I'll tell them a lie, and then they'll tell that to him, and then he'll get killed. And God says, that sounds like a good plan. And then he sends him off to do it. It's just a very strange passage, and it's one that we don't often come across if we don't read the Old Testament. But it's something that we see here that it reminds us that God is a partnering God. And so God partners with humans to get his work done on earth. God also partners with the spirit world, which are all created beings that he created, right? God created everything. So he created humans. He also created spirits, which we often refer to as angels and demons. But he partners with them as well to get his work done. He sends messengers. We read about that. We read about like Gabriel and Michael the archangel. We read about prophets who speak the word of the Lord who are human. We read about angels who speak the word of the Lord who are spirit beings. And so this is just the way that God works. We don't get a glimpse into that very often. But when it does appear in the Old Testament, we see that. Yeah, okay, so Keegan asked a really good question. It's a really difficult question. So this is a good question, Keegan. So he said, why would God tell them to lie? Isn't that a sin? Well, so there's different positions on lying. My position on lying is I think it's always wrong to lie. So like that's just my position, and my argumentation for that is that we're supposed to be like God. And God doesn't lie, and we're supposed to be imagers of God and reflect God. And if God doesn't tell lies, then we shouldn't tell lies. So that's my position. But with that being said, there are times in the Bible where biblical characters tell lies, and it seems to be either tolerated by God or even praised by God. So we can quickly do a survey of the lies in the Bible, and I want you to notice something about the lies in the Bible as we go through them. So this is a little side tangent that we're going to do. So it's always wrong. It's always wrong to lie to like other Christians. To like it, I would say like 99% of the time it's wrong to lie. All right. In this kind of like biblical thing, I personally think that as a Christian it's always wrong for me to lie. So that's kind of what I think. But there are some times in the Bible where lies take place. So let's look at it. So if we go back to Genesis, actually Exodus. Okay, so the first kind of lie, well, I guess the first lie that we see is Abraham. He lies about his sister being, or his wife being his sister. And that doesn't go well. That's condemned. Okay? If we look at the Ten Commandments, the thing about lying is you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. All right, so this is the Ten Commandments. And so some people take this against your neighbor as like fellow Christians. You shouldn't say things that are not true about other people. Especially other Christians. Some people take it that way. Other people take it as you shouldn't tell lies at all. But lying in the scriptures is generally referred to negatively. So Exodus 23, you shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with a wicked man to be malicious or witness. Proverbs 19:5, a false witness will not go unpunished, and he who breathes out lies will not escape. So obviously this is not good. Proverbs 19:9, a false witness will not go unpunished. He who breathes out lies will perish. It's said again. 21:28, a false witness will perish, but the word of a man who hears will endure. Be not a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club, or a sword, or a sharp arrow. Matthew 19, he said to him, which ones? And Jesus said, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. Now notice, Jesus drops off the neighbor part. He just says, you shall not bear false witness. Right? So you should not say something that is not true. Okay, now, so these are the kind of things that I think we shouldn't lie. Now, some people say that it's okay to lie if you're trying to protect someone else, or it's okay to lie to the enemy. Like if somebody's trying to destroy you or fight against you, they're your adversary, they're your enemy, and you don't owe them the truth. So that's what some people say. So there's a few lies that we have in Scripture. And so the first lie that we see here is from the midwives in Exodus, right here, the birth of Moses. Okay, right after this. All right, when you serve as a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, you should kill him, but if it's a daughter, she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but they let the male children live. So the king of Egypt called the midwives and said to them, why have you done this? And let the male children live. And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and give birth before the midwife comes to them. That's a lie. So God dealt well with the midwives, and people multiplied and grew strong. And so there's this lie, and then it says, so God dealt well with the midwives. And some people try to attach this lie to God dealing well with them. I don't think so. I think that that's attached to this. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them. I think the lying part, I mean, they didn't have the law. They didn't know. They just know that God is great, and they're trying to follow God, and they're trying to do the best thing that they can. We see the same thing here in with Rahab, when the spies come into the land, and Rahab tells a lie, and she is then, oh wow, we totally missed that. Maybe I spelled her name wrong. How do you spell Rahab? Let's just go up this way. Inhabitants. We want to go Exodus. Leviticus, Numbers. It's going to be here somewhere, right? I can't remember where Rahab is. I should know. Oh, here we go. Rahab hides the spies. Oh, it's in Joshua. I should have known that. All right. So, right here. They go in, but the woman had taken the two men and hidden them, and she said, true, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from, and when the gate was about to be closed at dark, the men went out. I do not know where the men went. Pursue them quickly, for you will overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hid them with the stalks of flax, and she had laid in order of the roof. So the men pursued after them on the way to the Jordan as far as the fords, and the gate was shut as soon as the pursuers had gone out. Before the men lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you and came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, of Shion at Og, whom you devoted to destruction. And as soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, now listen, I think this is what God's really interested in. For the Lord your God, he is God in the heavens and above the earth beneath. Okay, so she's recognizing God as God. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord, as I have dealt kindly with you, and you deal kindly with me and my father's house. So it goes on and on and on and on. And then if we go here, I think it's Hebrews. If we go down to Hebrews, where's Hebrews? Right here, chapter 12. Sorry, not 12. Wow, I've highlighted a lot of stuff here. Right here. By faith, Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Red Sea. Right here. By faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. Now, notice what it says here. It doesn't say that she lied. It doesn't say, by faith, Rahab the prostitute told a lie. It says, by faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. Because she recognized, I think, it's because she recognized that God was God. God was the God of the universe, right? So she's recognized that. So she tells a lie, but the lie itself was not necessarily the right thing to do. It was just what she had done because she feared God, and she didn't know any better there. Now, was it the right thing for her to do to lie, or should she have told the truth? I think that's a difficult question. It's an ethical question that's difficult. So in our minds, we would say, well, if she told the truth, the spies would have got killed. And it's like, well, we don't know that for sure. Like, you're assuming in that situation, you're assuming omniscience. You're assuming that you know everything, that if you told the truth, that the spies would have gotten killed. We don't know that if Rahab would have told the truth, that God would have saved the spies in some other miraculous manner, or, something else could have happened. And so I don't think those two instances of lying can be equated with lying is the right thing to do, or that we should lie, or that the Bible tells us that lying is good in certain situations. So that would be kind of my position. Now, this passage here in 2 Chronicles that we're dealing with, this is a little bit more difficult because God is sending this spirit to put this lie into the prophets. One, it's not a human telling a lie, it's a spirit. We don't know. We're here in 2 Chronicles. We don't know what, I don't remember what chapter we were in. Defeat of death of Ahab. Oh, here we go. So we're at this passage. We don't know what kind of spirit this is. This could be an evil spirit still under the control of God, and like a what we would call like a demon saying like, hey, I'm going to go to Ahab and make all these people lie, and God just uses that evil spirit and allows him to go do his thing. Like that's possible. God can use evil as well as he can use good for his purposes. It could be that God is allowing that thing. It's purposeful, and this enemy is hearing the thing. So the truth ultimately does come to Ahab through the prophet Micah. He tells him the truth. He says, hey, there was a lying spirit. And so ultimately that he gets the truth. The spirit, all the spirit beings are there, Brett. I think that's Brett. It could be Jaden. So they're all God's in the divine council, and so that could include both good spirits and evil spirits. Like God's just there, and it's possible that there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, we could go down a lot of kind of rabbit holes and stuff, but I think that I can show from the scriptures that almost every situation that you're ever going to be in, you personally as a human in your life, it's going to be wrong to tell a lie. It's sinful to tell a lie. So that's my position. There's people that are going to disagree with me, but I think that as a human, in the image of God, called by God to be an image bearer of Him and to reflect His character, that I should tell the truth the way that God tells the truth. So, and I showed you a few passages and a few verses on like why I think that. I could be wrong in that, and there's people who disagree with me on that, but that's always been my policy. Me and Goofy are tight on that. Honesty is the best policy. So, and I think that's a biblical principle. But this is a difficult passage nonetheless. The lying makes it a difficult passage. The fact that there's all these spirit beings around God that, He's like, hey, who's got a plan for this? And then God is using them. So this is a passage that a lot of people don't deal a ton with. And I've dealt a little bit with it, kind of read it and studied it a little bit, but not as, I definitely have a stack of books that I plan on reading that talk a lot more about this subject, and I'm interested in that. And so maybe we'll revisit this when I have a deeper base of knowledge for this and exactly what's going on. But I encourage you guys, read this passage, check out some of the cross references and some of the other stuff that's going on, and maybe we'll learn a little bit more about this, and maybe you have a different position on lying. So yeah, Brett, I think that would be true. So Brett said it's like when Satan asks permission to wreck Job's life, and God says, yeah, that's fine. I think it would be a similar thing, because that's what we have here. Because God's sitting here, right here. It says, the Lord said, who will entice Ahab, the king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said one thing, and another said another thing. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, by what means? And he said, I will go out, and I will put a lying spirit in his mouth of all the prophets. So God first asked, by what means? And then he tells him his plan, and then God allows it. Right? So God doesn't tell him the plan. God doesn't say like, hey, you should go lie. God says, what's your plan? And he's like, I'm going to go put a lying spirit into the prophets. And then God says, I will go out and put a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. And he said, you are to entice him and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. So he's like, yeah, that's a good plan. Do it. Now, the interesting thing is that gets equated to the Lord. Now, therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets. Well, how did the Lord do it? Well, he did it through this other spirit. So yes, the Lord did it, but he did it through this other spirit. So the Lord has declared disaster concerning you. But then God also gets the truth out through the prophet Micah. And so, yeah, it's complicated. But I don't think that you could use this passage. I don't think you can use the Rahab passage, and I don't think that you can use the midwife passage. I don't think that you can use any of those passages to justify lying or to justify you telling a lie. Because Rahab she didn't have the law. The law hadn't been given yet. The midwives didn't have the law. The law hadn't been given yet. They were also proselytes. They weren't Jews. They were outside. They were fearers of God, but they didn't know all about how to worship God. We see God blessing those people in that situation, but we never see the blessing directly linked to the lie. We see, I think, the blessing linked to the fear that they had of God. So this is my position. And like I said, people might disagree with me, but this is where I am currently. And maybe later somebody will convince me that it's okay to lie. But I don't think it's okay to lie. That doesn't mean that I don't lie. I still tell lies because I have sin in my heart, and I try not to tell lies. And sometimes I'll tell a lie, and I'll be like, God, why did you tell that lie? That was so dumb. You should always tell the truth. But sometimes it's hard to tell the truth. We get scared. We have fear of man. There's a lot of sinful things that are going on inside of our hearts that cause us to lie. But we should always seek to tell the truth because we should always seek to be like God. So, all right. Well, sorry we went over a little bit. We talked a lot, and we didn't get as far as I had liked to in our reading. But we did, I think, have a good discussion here and looked at some biblical passages on some stuff. So, yeah. And then I might try to chop this out of this video and post a video on just like, is it okay to lie? And we'll have a video on the channel. I also want to start putting up videos that are like this where I answer questions. So the video's not just my channel's not just Bible reading and like sermons I've preached at fellowship, but I want to start pulling the scriptures up and trying to answer questions about the scriptures and about life's questions. So if you have stuff like that, email me. It doesn't matter what the question is. Just like email me a question like, hey, this is a question, and then I'll make a video for it and I'll post it on this channel. I want to start doing that, especially as things are beginning to shut down more and more because we're kind of having a resurgence of COVID. And I want to beef this channel up with things that are helpful for you guys and not just like a whole sermon, but maybe just like a 5 or 10 minute video trying to answer some question that you have, and I'll post it. Yeah, let's try the Facebook thing now. So anybody who wants to stick around, we're going to try that, okay? And let me look at the rest of these comments real quick to make sure we got all the questions. Thanks for answering my question. God's encouraging the spirit to lie. He's just telling. Okay, yeah. Let's remember this is what all vision of Micah had. Just relaying it. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Did you decide? Yeah, okay. So we're going to do the Facebook thing. Yeah, like a miniatures pastor's perspective. That's exactly right. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. All right, so here we go. This stream's going to shut down, but then there's going to be a new one that's going to start, all right? And we'll see if that works. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Peace.